Hello, everybody, and welcome to Level the Field Leadership. My name is Dr. Rachel Gallardo, and I'm very thankful, very excited, very honored that you have decided to join me today. If you are new, then I'm not going to expect anything out of you. I just appreciate you being here and listening. But if you are returning, welcome back. You guys know that I created this podcast because I do believe that workplace burnout is very real, and anything we can do to reduce burnout and fatigue in our leadership roles will positively impact our team, will have a positive impact on us, and we can be better, more present for our teams, for our families, for our friends, etc. I do post a new episode on the second and the fourth Tuesday of the month. So maybe flag that. Keep that in mind. Wherever you're listening to the sound of my voice, go ahead and subscribe so that way, whenever a new episode is posted, you can receive that notification. And then, whenever you are running errands, waiting for the car line to pick up your kids, washing the dishes, whatever it is that you're doing, you can listen to this and get a little bit of information that's going to help you long term. For those of you that are more visual learners, then feel free to join me over on YouTube, and you can see me in all of my glory, along with all of the Cubs toys that are kind of over my shoulder. It's amazing what you can accomplish during nap time. So I just want to say that if you are a mom listening to me right now, it is possible for you to still do things, really follow your goals. Requires a little bit of planning, a little bit of strategic, logistical, scouting out of everything, but it can be done. So hopefully I can be an example for you as far as that goes. But if you are new, I do like to base our topics around scripture. As a Christian, I do believe that we don't necessarily separate ourselves from whatever it is that we're currently doing. And this topic has really kind of been on my mind. And so I was really thankful whenever I came across Zechariah 4:10. Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. And I think too often we think we have to have this big program or this big accomplishment before we can celebrate that, or everything has to be just so before we can take that next step towards something that we know that we're passionate about, something we really want to do. And that's just simply not true. However imperfect it is, just begin. As a recovering perfectionist myself, I have to remind myself that it doesn't matter what it looks like when I start. All that matters is that I just start. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm talking about quiet wins today. And what in the world do I mean when I say quiet wins? So when we talk about that, or the way that I'm approaching this topic, I'm talking about those very modest, very incremental, very kind of unnoticed things that can accumulate over time and will actually yield powerful outcomes. In our work environments, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of transactional things. There's a lot of, emails that are coming through. There's a lot of change that are happening, that happens on a pretty regular basis. And so sometimes we can kind of get into information overload, but quiet leadership and those quiet wins become recognized whenever we can provide that cultural stability that our teams are often really seeking, no matter how much change is going on around them. So anything that you can do to kind of create those small, very standardized, they know exactly who they're going to get, they know exactly what your response is going to be on a day-to-day basis. Those are the quiet wins that we really truly should be celebrating. So these are not the things that you're probably going to post on LinkedIn. These are not the real sexy things that people get awards and accolades for. You didn't win a grant because you did this one thing, but those little tiny things that you have done over time that have really established this rapport that you now have with your team. It can really and truly be helpful. I came across an article by Dr. Calvert in 2024, and she said that modern workplaces reward volume and speed, but quiet leadership, which really is marked by listening, emotional intelligence, and authenticity, is going to support more stable, sustainable performance. So if you think about that, like if you're having constant change, what are you really doing? Like you're doing a lot of transactional things, but you're not doing those transformational things. And those transformational things are where we as leaders really make an impact, and therefore our teams can make an impact. You're helping them to be their best selves. There's a Forbes article in 2025 that says that teams that are led by quieter, human-centered leaders show 37% higher engagement and up to 27% better performance. I mean, what could you do if every single person on your team were that much more engaged by 37%? Like that's huge. In my world, in the land of teaching, 37%, it goes from a C to an A like that. And I think too often we think that we have to have these big outlandish outcomes, these big things before our teams will really and truly be engaged. And that's just simply not true. Those quiet wins, those small things that we as leaders can do on a day-to-day basis are going to make an impact. So, what are some examples of some small quiet wins that we can talk about? Again, these are very small, very achievable goals. They're not going to overload your calendar that's already overloaded. It's not going to be this tremendous thing added to your to-do list, but they're very, very small incremental improvements. So, maybe that's you streamlining a process. So that way there are fewer barriers for trying to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Maybe it's just simply you taking the time to reach out to a teammate and be like, hey, I know last week was kind of rough for you. How's everything going this week? Maybe it's clearing a backlog. Maybe it's you finally getting to a point in your Outlook where it's like, I literally don't have any more emails to respond to. Now, don't celebrate that too long because I'm sure within a couple minutes it's going to change. But those small, small wins can really and truly be valuable and oftentimes are overlooked. These small wins, again, they're visible enough to motivate, yet small enough to be consistently achievable. Um, if it's something small, like, you know what, I'm going to be intentional about the appreciation that I give my team. I'm going to really find out how each person on my team likes to be appreciated. And then I'm going to try to tailor that for each individual person. So instead of that blanketed, hey, thanks everybody that you send via email, that doesn't really have an impact. Maybe it's you taking the time to send a very personalized email to one person saying, I really appreciate that you took care of XYZ. I'm so very thankful that you're on our team. If there's anything I can do to support you, please let me know. Words of affirmation are most people's primary form of motivation. And whenever it's tailored specifically to them for a specific task that they accomplish, you're going to have more sustainable outcomes. You're going to have better results. And to prove that, there was actually research that was done. It was a longitudinal study. There was 12,000 employees, and it found that workers who regularly set and achieve small goals are more likely to meet broader performance targets and, again, are happier at work. So, those micro rewards, those frequent small acknowledgments, are going to boost energy, boost connection, and boost motivation. And quite frankly, when it comes down to it, if you look at the numbers for turnover, for why people tend to leave an organization, they don't leave because they don't get to wear jeans on Fridays, and they don't leave because, the company doesn't buy them lunch every day. Like, those are not the things that people are looking for. Most often, people leave because they don't feel like they have a good connection with their team, primarily with their leader. And so they're like, well, if I don't really feel a connection here, if there's really no point in me staying here, then why am I staying here? The reason why people leave, number three on the list, is pay. So it's that connection that they have with their leadership and with the rest of their team. That's the number one reason why they leave. And then the second reason why they leave is they don't feel like they have any opportunities for advancement within the organization. And putting those small wins in place from a leadership standpoint can help solidify those first two. If you can do something about the pay, then do something about the pay. Like, people need to earn what their worth is, like what their job is. But the first two are totally within our control, and oftentimes we don't do them. So, when we talk about quiet wins as a leadership strategy, I want for you to stop and ask yourself if you're doing any of these things. And maybe this is something that you can start to implement, you know, starting next month. We want to give ourselves a little bit of a buffer, and maybe April the 1st is like the month that you decide, you know what, I'm going to start doing this little by little. So, quiet leaders use time of reflection, and they listen, and they use emotional intelligence to cultivate trust. If you are doing more talking than listening, that's an issue. You want to make sure that you're taking time to listen to your team, to listen whenever people are saying things, and to not cut them off. Like, if you ask for their opinion, you need to be willing to hear what it is that they have to say without getting defensive, without getting judgmental, without getting all in a fluster, because people do have valuable information to say, but they stop talking whenever they think that nobody's going to listen. Are you giving recognition? Again, going back to this idea of appreciation, are you really and truly recognizing people for the work that they're doing? Or are you sending those blanketed, hey, thanks everybody emails, and then wondering why people don't continue to stay motivated? So this steady, grounded behavior, this steady show of emotional intelligence, this steady show of listening to people, this I mean, it's boring. I hate to say it, but great leadership really and truly is boring because, again, you're not doing anything that's really vibrant and flamboyant and really out there. You are a consistent person. You're creating psychological safety for the people on your team, and you little by little are growing and changing, which is going to help give them that foundation they need for those sustainable practices. Again, going back to that research by Dr. Calvert, she stated that teams led by introverted or quiet leaders actually outperform those teams that are led by domineering leaders, especially whenever the employees are able to be proactive. So if you are an introvert, I'm an introvert. If you're not that type of person that wants to be the center of attention, like, look, I just want to come in, do the best job that I possibly can and go home. You have the ability to have stronger teams than those leaders that are a lot more outgoing, a lot more talkative, a lot more center of attention. So this idea to be adaptive apathy, to really have that emotional intelligence, to really and truly listen to the people around you, are actually now considered top traits for leaders whenever it comes to workplace employment. And that's from an article by Forbes. So this is not just me blowing smoke. This is not just my personal opinion. There's actually research data that supports the quiet leaders have the ability to be stronger and to really and truly guide and motivate their teams more so than those extroverted leaders. Okay. Another quiet win to think about is that you just have a strong leadership presence. So, quiet leaders have this ability to say so much without really saying anything at all. Because you're allowing your team to be themselves. They understand what the goals are. They understand who you are. They know that you have their back, even if you can't necessarily be with them. So I know a lot of you have got virtual teams that you're having to manage, or like in my situation, I have teams that are on different campuses and I can't be everywhere all at the same time. But I do trust my team members, my colleagues, to do what it is that they need to do to provide the best service that's necessary. And there's positive outcomes because of it. Okay. You also reinforce credibility because quiet leaders don't need to spend, like, you're not trying to meet a word count, right? Like, you're not trying to say all of these different things. And you have the ability to just say what you need to say it in a clear and concise manner without having a whole lot of emotion involved. So you're not yelling at people, you're not screaming at them, you're not being, passive aggressive. You're saying what needs to be said, and then that's it. You're a quiet leader, you set that expectation, and then people absolutely positively know what the expectation is because you are consistent. You are the steady Eddie, okay? Um, Quiet leaders are also able to stay calm under pressure. So no matter what else is going on around them, if you have people that come to you because they're like, you know what, Rachel, I just need some information about this because I'm hearing all of these other things. And if you're able to give them some guidance, give them some information, give them some direction, and they leave your office saying, okay, I feel a lot better. Calmness is contagious. And if you can offer that sense of calm and that sense of peace to people on your team, that is a quiet win, my friend, that you should absolutely be celebrating. Because quiet leadership knows how to have that psychological safety where people can come to you, and whether it's something good or something bad, like, they know that they can come to you and it's going to be okay. I can't tell you how many times people on my team have told on themselves and been like, okay, Rachel, this thing happened, and I want to let you know that it happened because if it becomes a thing, I just want to give you a heads up. And I feel very honored that they feel comfortable coming to me with that information because that tells me that in the past, I have responded in a calm manner. I've worked with them, we've worked through whatever the situation is, and then we've been able to move forward. If you are on your team and you've got people that you're finding out that something went wrong and they didn't bother to come to you, then that's something that you as a leader need to kind of take a moment and think about, okay, what have I done that's caused them to not feel comfortable coming to me? And I've had an episode about trust on in this podcast thread in the past, so you can go and take a look and listen to that. But something has happened where they now don't feel comfortable coming to you. You have violated their trust in some way, shape, or form. And so you've got to do the work to recover that. If that means having a direct conversation, so be it. But it also might just mean that you might need to be consistent over a period of time, and that's going to reestablish it. So, fostering that psychological safety, fostering that trust, it can really and truly be a game changer when it comes to your leadership. And it should be counted as a quiet win. If you have got psychological safety with your team, you should celebrate that. Absolutely. And then finally, whenever we talk about this idea of motivation and engagement, we should track this progress in small increments so that way we can help our teams stay energized. So, if you are only providing feedback when it's time for that annual evaluation, you are missing an opportunity to provide appreciation the other 364 days out of the year. We don't want to have the primacy effect or the recency effect influencing what it is that we write when it comes to performance evaluations. We want to make sure that people know every other day out of the year how they're doing, whether that's good or if there's things that need to be modified. You're more likely to reinforce behavior and you're more likely to change behavior if you address it right whenever you see it occurring. Okay. And so these small, I call them breadcrumbs, so the motivational breadcrumbs that you're giving to your team on a regular basis is going to be more impactful than if you just give them one meal one time out of the year. So those are performance evaluations. It shouldn't be a surprise. Like people should automatically know where they stand when they have to come and talk to you about those, but you're actually giving a quiet win whenever you're doing those small increments of encouragement all along. So there was also research I want to note here that says that team setting short-term goals and having those short-term motivations reduced big resolution time by 10%. So it does show a measurable operational gain whenever you have that feedback that you give them immediately instead of waiting long term to let somebody know what they did or didn't do in the work environment. It also increases moods. So there's another research article that says that a person's mood will actually increase between 28 and 59% whenever you give them a small bout of encouragement, a small dose of, hey, you did a really great job with this, instead of waiting. So, quiet leadership, again, it's going to prioritize that emotional steadiness and that continual learning, which both of those promote psychological safety. Do you see how all of this is connected? Like, I can't stress how important it is. The small things that we do on a regular basis, those quiet wins, are going to be so huge. Finally, I just want to say that whenever we have this culture of reflection from a leadership standpoint, when we take this time to really stop and think about, did I truly listen to this person when they were talking to me? Did I implement emotional intelligence? Am I really and truly streamlining processes as much as possible? Whenever we do that, it goes from being just a habit that we do to being a really thoughtful practice. And your leadership style begins to take form. And whenever people hear your name as being supervisor, manager, VP of whatever, they automatically have an emotion that's associated with that because you have created that psychological safety. You've created that environment around the people that work with you. So, quiet leadership is really going to try to focus on being present, being understanding, but taking those moments of reflection for yourself despite how fast your work environment is moving. So, for those of you that have to commute, you don't have the luxury of being able to work from home, take some time on your commute, whether that be to or from the office, and really think about what did I do today that I need to do better? Is there a conversation that I need to go back and talk to someone about? Is there a small habit that I can implement now such that if I start doing it, it doesn't become, it's not a habit, it becomes a just something that I do because it's the right thing to do. So celebrate those small wins. You don't need to have these big spectacles. We don't need to go out for lunch every time something happens. But having those quiet shout outs, those small, quick messages to really recognize and reinforce effort is really important. If you can implement some sort of like peer to peer recognition, that's even better because people not only want to hear it from their leadership, but they want to know that their colleagues appreciate and see what they're doing too. Remember, I go back to the point that I made. The top two reasons why people leave is because they can't stand their leader or they don't really like working with their colleagues. So if you can implement things that are going to help shape both of those, the chances of a person leaving the organization decrease, your turnover numbers decrease, you have a cost savings for the organization, and everybody is a little bit more safe because you don't have this constant turnover, right? So I'm not sure what that's going to look like for you. Maybe you do need to do a deep dive in emotional intelligence. Maybe you do need to take some time for active listening. Maybe you need to start implementing this idea of just showing thanks and showing appreciation. Or maybe you just need to learn to keep your mouth shut. Active listening is one of those things where you really and truly have to dial yourself back and lean into what the person is saying, because it's not about you. It's not about you preparing your response. It's really and truly hearing what the person has to say and being that boat of support for them for whatever the issue might be. So, how is this going to impact you long term? I've touched on this a little bit, but I just want to reinforce this idea. Sustained small wins compound into major organizational change. I think too often we have people that think, well, I have this major problem within our organization, and here's what we need to do to fix it. And so here we go spending thousands of dollars on these programs, and we think that this is what's going to be the thing that changes workplace culture, and everybody's going to show up all happy and go lucky. No, it's those small interactions that we have with people on a day in, day out basis that ultimately define an organization's overall culture. So, whenever you implement these small things on a regular basis, you're laying the foundation for what the culture on your team is going to look like, and you're showing that you as a leader, you value learning, you value humanity, you value connecting with other people, you value what it is that other people have to say. And so these quiet wins are going to prepare organizations to withstand stress and uncertainty when, not if, but when they ultimately occur. So I leave you with this. I found research too that says quiet leadership approaches are especially effective in complex, unpredictable environments where reflection and empathy outperform command and control tactics. If you are trying to control people, you are not leading them. If you are trying to force and impose your will on people, you're not leading them. Now, granted, in moments of crisis, sometimes you do need to turn into an authoritarian leader for just a minute because we have to do X, Y, and Z. I don't have time for a powwow. I just need for you to do this so that way we can get through it. But in other times, whenever you have moments of calm within your organization, that is when this foundation for this quiet leadership, the psychological safety, this emotional intelligence is really going to shine through. In the previous episode I posted, I talked about how your culture is defined in the chaos. Well, you create that safety, you prepare for the chaos in the moments of quiet. And if you're not doing that, you're missing a major opportunity. So I hope with the information that I've said, I know that this is really fast, but you guys know I don't like to talk a whole lot because this is not, a classroom lecture or anything. It's just a little nugget of information that I want for you to take with you and maybe just kind of stop and reflect and think, okay, what is it that I can start doing differently now that's going to have these long-term impacts? Quiet leaders build culture not through the noise, but again, through consistency, your being present, and then those small recognitions on your team that really and truly have an impact. It's not about doing less. So please hear me. I'm not saying to not be involved and to, take yourself off of that committee and to not work on that project, but it's about doing what matters most in a quiet and a very consistent way. Good leadership is actually very boring. And the more boring you are as a leader, I hope you hear my heart when I say that phrase, you're actually doing the right thing. You're moving in the right direction. You're leading your team in a way that is going to be impactful and meaningful long term. So I'll leave you with this, as I always do. Remember, you are made to be a leader right where you are, wherever you're leading. I truly hope that this episode and all of the episodes in this podcast help you level the field of challenges you face while you walk this journey of leadership. I hope that you take some time to take care of yourself. I hope you are taking care of your team. Share this episode with other leaders that you think might benefit from it. If you know an introverted leader that's maybe a little self-conscious, help them understand that, you know what, you have the ability to actually be a stronger leader than anybody else, and have them listen to this and maybe you guys can kind of talk about it. But I do believe that leadership is a journey, and I don't think that you should have to walk this journey alone. So I fully believe that you can do this. I fully believe that you're capable of being a strong leader, and I hope you find this information valuable. Until next time.